What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, so today I'm going to be giving you guys a breakdown review, me rambling about the movie Sinners. I literally just left the theater, so all of the knowledge and information is coming straight from my head to the channel. I'm literally at the hotel that me and Mecca are staying in Dallas. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna just like review the movie just straight off. Like, was it good, right? 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. I am not even joking to y'all. This is one of the best movies I've seen in a really long time. I feel like from top to bottom, it was really well done, really well thought about, all the things. I'm sure everybody knows by now, but Ryan made the decision to shoot this movie on film. And so there's a few select theaters in the country, only 8 apparently, only 8 select theaters in the country where you can see it in true form 70mm film for its intended purpose. And luckily for me, I was in Dallas, and that's where one of the theaters are. So I just feel like I'm so blessed and so lucky. So that's that. And what's crazy is apparently, bitch, this movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes. It did not feel like 2 hours and 17 minutes. I did not realize it was that long because it was that good, and I was just like that enamored with the storyline. So I kind of want to break it down from the acting, and then I'll talk about like everything else. So first off, Michael B. Jordan, motherfucker, you deserve all the things. Like, I feel like that was absolutely his best performance to date, for sure. I feel like he really showcased his range of emotion, playing 2 different characters while also having to have that family tie because they were brothers, twin brothers, was so incredibly hard to do, but he did it so well while still maintaining this level of individuality for each character. I was never confused when I was watching the screen. Obviously it's the same person, so like for example, twins in real life, there are physical differences, even slightly, right? And there are personality differences. So a lot of the times when you get to know twins in real life, you know which is which because, you know what I'm saying, you know, da-da-da-da. Versus in a film, it's the exact same person, so there are no physical differences, literally. And technically speaking, there are no, like, personality differences. So he had to be able to capture that, and I was never confused at all who was on screen to me because of his mannerisms, the way that he was talking, the way that he just kind of created this persona for those characters. He did that so fucking well that I was honestly obsessed with that aspect of it. And I felt like, wow, like I want to know how hard that is to do. Like, it was so inspiring. I'm like, damn, I want to try that. Like, I want to do some shit like that. Like, that was so fucking cool to me. Like, he really did that. I feel like it was casted really well. I feel like having Delroy Lindo as Delta was absolutely perfect. I've said this before. I feel like he's such a great actor. Him in that movie with Spike Lee. What was that Spike Lee movie? I can't remember. The Five Bloods. Him in The Five Bloods was, I mean, that performance was amazing. He did his thing. He is such a good actor, and I felt like he added such an element of blackness to this film that was just so needed. Of course, he was playing the local drunk who's also a musical fucking genius who everybody loves and has that comedic element to kind of really like bring in that, that sense of whimsicalness, and it just was everything. Like, I feel like he played that role so perfectly well. Like, it was so believable, of course, but just beyond that, his comedic timing was amazing because he had to portray somebody who was drunk, and people really underestimate how hard it is to portray somebody who was drunk because sometimes you overdo it, and I feel like he was just where he needed to be in his pocket. It was everything. I'm looking at the notes right here for all, because I don't be knowing all the names to everybody. So the girl who played Annie was Wunmi Mosaku. Actually, I hope I said her name right, but she was in Lovecraft Country, and if you know, you know, baby. Justice for Lovecraft Country. But anyways, she obviously played the fuck out of her role as well, and I really loved that her character had this element of spirituality. Because of course, when we're based in this like Reconstruction era, spirituality was at a very like pivotal point with specifically Black Americans, because you have, of course, the Christian church, which a lot of Black folks are still to this day tied to, and that was kind of, that came through oppression. But then of course you have that African spirituality that a lot of people still held on to, and it kind of transformed into like this hoodoo, like our own version of spirituality. And I'm glad they kept that element in there, because especially when you're talking about things that are quote unquote supernatural, such as vampires, it's imperative that you have some level of spirituality in there. Otherwise, all the characters are going to be lost. She was kind of a, what would I call her? She was a pillar of this storyline. Her connection to the spiritual realm was so imperative to people's survival, was imperative to them getting through, was imperative for them even understanding what's going on. She was literally their midpoint. She was their communication to the outside world. And I really feel like obviously she played her roles very well. Honestly, everybody's performance was amazing. But I want to talk about the Sammy character. So this guy was played by Miles Caton, fresh face. And one thing about me, I'm gonna always clap it up for a fresh fucking face. I love when we get new fresh talent for a movie, especially a movie of this caliber. He came in and played the fuck out of Lil Sammy. I was so enamored with his performance. It was so emotional and so raw. I felt the innocence of his character being so young, but I also felt like this emerging like element of maturity that he had to like grow throughout the span of 24 hours. Like watching him evolve and change from the beginning to the end was so amazing. And his voice, oh my God, that boy can sing his ass off. And to see like just how he was also, you know, a really strong pillar of this storyline. He was clearly the anchor of this story. And I love that that was not necessarily known going into it. So of course we know that Michael B. Jordan was going to be playing twins, and it was going to be not a Halloween child a vampire movie. That's as much as I knew. I didn't know that we were going to have this strong anchor character that was tied to the twins but also tied to something else. And when I tell you, that boy is amazing, and I hope to see him in so many other things. Oh my God, like he did so good. Like I can't listen, the acting was a 10 out of 10. Everybody's role was played and played well. I feel like it was casted so perfectly. I have no notes on how it was casted. I truly feel like it was casted just the way it should have been. Now I want to talk about the movie just like as the storyline, the cinematicness, and all of those good things. This movie was written so well, and it was really thought about from top to bottom. I didn't feel like there were any plot holes. I don't feel like I walked away with any questions unanswered. I don't feel like I walked away confused about anything. It was told carefully and methodically. Remember, I said this movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes long, but it didn't feel like it. There are some movies where they're long, and even though you can tell it needed to be long, it still was like very draggy, like, oh, I have to get through this storytelling element first. No, I didn't feel that way. I feel like the storytelling was so compelling, and you're just watching it like, I'm interested in what's going to happen next, but not even on some super suspenseful way, which I really thought was very interesting on how he did that, because the suspense didn't happen until like right in the middle. You're just genuinely watching a story. You're watching, you know, this, like I said, the Reconstruction period with Black folks clearly post-slavery, but still in that Jim Crow era, because they're still sharecropping, they're still picking cotton, they're still doing all of those things, and it's still very much in a segregated South. It's still very much racial tension. It's still very much that era. We're watching that, and at the same time, we're immediately put into a story. We're immediately put into something that's familiar to us as Black Americans, because we know of the Great Migration. We know of a lot of Black folks transitioning from the South to going to places like Detroit and Chicago. We know of that story. And so this is like the story on the flip side, where they're coming back from Chicago, right? And they're coming back to the South, and they're reintegrating themselves back into this town that they left, right? And so we're left with little nuggets along the way of clearly these two niggas ain't just on the straight and narrow. All right, clearly these niggas be up to no good. I think that was a secret that was not too much of a secret immediately, because everybody was like, oh, them two niggas around here again. I think that it was very obvious that they had some things, some ways about them that wasn't too, right. But I could tell that their characters were an important story arc, and I loved the yin and yang of them, right? They were each other's weaknesses in a way, and I think that portrayed itself so very well. Like, I keep wanting to call him Michael B. Jordan, but it's like Stack, his playful personality, him in the way, what's his name, was it Stone? Not Stone, Smoke, the way Smoke said, you got to watch his back, because he don't always know when to watch his back. That subtle foreshadowing of knowing that he's willing to let his guard down because he's a little bit more whimsical. You can tell that he's the younger sibling, because that's just how younger siblings are. We're used to leaning on our older siblings for that support, but also waiting for them to kind of look out for us because we're so used to them doing that. But and so we see that in the grand scheme of things, that he let his guard down. He wasn't super aware of the things that was happening right in front of him, and that's how he got, right? But I think it's interesting that he was the one to essentially live on, because of course if you stay towards the end, you'll see that his spirit, it's not even that his spirit, his body lives on, because his brother wasn't able to do it. Even though he looked at his brother, and even though Smoke looked at his brother Stack as kind of like the weaker one mentally, right? Because he was a little less mature. He was a little bit more of the wild card. He still was his final destination. He was not able to put his brother at his final moment. He could not put that dagger in his heart. He said, I just couldn't do it, and that was his weakness. They are each other's weakness, and that's why it ended the way that it did, because he would have never been able to do that. And so I really love that. But one scene I want to talk about specifically, oh my God, and you already know what scene I'm talking about if you've seen the movie, baby. The scene where they are playing the music, and we are kind of taken into this fantasy world where all of the music combines, because she says something along the lines of, when you're playing blues, when you're playing this kind of music, you are tapping into the people who came before you, but you're also transcending and tapping into the people who are going to come after you. And that's what's happening when we play music. And that scene felt so emotionally charged for me, because that's what I feel when I listen to music. I feel like there is such a spiritual element to music. There is such a spiritual tie to sonic waves and to when people play music intentionally. That's the part that I think a lot of people miss, though. When music is played intentionally, there is absolutely a spiritual divine connection that happens that's unmistakable, and that scene was so incredibly beautiful. But what I also want to talk about is the structure of this motherfucking movie. There were some very extended long shots in this film, which takes a lot of coordination, which takes a lot of choreography, which takes a lot of practice, a lot of patience, a lot of tries. And I am just like taking my hat off and bowing to the entire fucking crew for pulling this shit off so masterfully. It was just done so well. Those long shots, y'all, I wish y'all could understand how fucking hard that shit is. Like, they did that. And oh my God, that scene alone needs to win something. Damn it, that scene alone has to win something. Like, it has to. It was so black, baby. This movie was so black in the most tasteful way. Like, it was so black as hell. It was. Ryan Coogler is an artist, and I appreciate him so much, bro. Like, as I was watching this movie, I'm not even joking to you, I was getting so emotional, especially towards the end, because I'm like, bro, like, film is art. Film is art. Film is art. There's a lot of movies out there. There's a lot of people out there that do movies or want to do movies that just kind of view it as entertainment, which it is, and just kind of view it as just a one-off thing, like something to make money off of, something to fuel the economy, all those things. We need more people like Ryan Coogler who view film in the way that it's supposed to be viewed, as fucking art, bro. That shit, when I was getting so emotional watching this shit, because I'm like, this is why I love this shit. This is why I want to do this. I want to be able to make something like that. I want to be able to do this shit and be able to talk about how I came up with the ideas. I want to be able to talk about how I came up with the casting, how I decided to shoot on film, how I just want to be able to do that. I want to be able to make art like that, make art that is impactful and intentional, because on one element you're showing all of these amazing elements of Black America, but you're also showing the true elements of what post-slavery Reconstruction era looked like. It wasn't just Black folks that was in that time. You see the steady generations of Asians, and you also see the indigenous Americans right there as well, because that's what was going on. And we see how they was working together, and we kind of see how they was in community together until the white folks showed up. Because one thing about it, baby, them crackers. them crackers. Yeah, I do love how they got the retribution in the end. I love a happy ending, and to me it was still a happy ending. Like being able to see Sammy still choose music, and that, let's talk about storytelling, because while we have two stories happening simultaneously, right, and really two main stories happening simultaneously. Of course, we have the conflict of there are vampires trying to kill us, right? Great, cool. But then you also have Sammy, who is fighting this conflict and this internal battle of what's right and what's wrong. My father wants me to stay in the church, but not only that, my cousins are trying to persuade me to do that because they've been off doing who knows what. But that's not where my heart is leading me. My heart is telling me to follow music because that's what I love, that's my passion. But I feel like if I do that, I feel this sense of guilt because my father, who has been in the church, has told me that that's the devil's play. But I also feel the sense of guilt, especially afterwards, and that's why he showed up back to the church, because look at what happened when I chose music. I brought this amount of evil to me and my family. Look at what happened when I went against the church and went against my father. So he felt that guilt and he went on home. But as soon as he went in there, he also felt that was also not his place. He was not comfortable. He did not feel like he was doing what was right for him in that moment. And that's why he couldn't let that guitar go. And that's why he had to go off and find that on his own. Ryan Coogler, we speak your name. We speak your name. That was so masterful. It makes me so excited to like be in this industry, even to just spectate, you know. It made me so like inspired to just write, to think beyond the fucking box, to try some new shit, to look into yourself, because there's so many ways that we can pull from the Black experience. The Black experience is so fucking beautiful, bro. Like the Black American experience is so rich and so full of context, so full of everything that we can pull from to create so much masterful, intentional art. And that's all I want to do. And like, man, seeing people like Ryan Coogler do this shit and still keep his thick ass Oakland accent with his braids and his Black wife, getting up there talking about producing Black ass stories like this, it is so inspiring, and it truly makes me emotional, because I just think about the potential of me being able to do something like this, me being able to pull other Black folks into it. I'm just so excited. And yeah, well, that's my movie review. Of course, there were, I don't want to say Easter eggs, but there were definitely a lot of historical elements of the movie. There was a lot of foreshadowing. There was a lot of things like that, but I didn't necessarily want to hit on that because, for one, I definitely feel like I need to go back and write notes. Like, I'm just off the dome, but I really want to kind of just talk about the impact and just straight off telling you what I thought about the movie. I feel like it was done very, very well. I feel like from the acting, from the cinematography, from the choreography, from the music, damn, they did that. And I hope they get all the things. Like, this needs to be celebrated, this needs to be awarded, and they should be fucking proud of themselves, bro. Like, this was a fucking masterpiece, and Ryan Coogler is a fucking genius, and I have to work with him, even if it's just me being a fucking PA, bitch.